Okay guys, this is video number 2. Hopefully I could get through the last 5 problems on this video so we don't have to go into a third video. Okay, question number 6 is this one, to solve for x on the interval between 0 and 2 pi. Alright, save time, I'm not going to read it, I'm just going to write it. Okay, let me see if I can get more coverage. There we go, a little better here. Alright, it is the cosine of x plus 3 pi over 4 minus the cosine of x minus 3 pi over 4 equals 0. Okay, so to solve this, I hope you recognize that these are both the sum and difference formulas. You're going to have to expand on these formulas first, and we did a few of these. Okay, we have a video on this and we had homework on this. So I'm going to use the cosine formula and expand just this one. So it's the cosine x cosine 3 pi over 4, it's plus so it becomes minus, sine x sine 3 pi over 4. Now, be careful, this is a negative. We're going to have to distribute it, so put this whole thing in parentheses. All right, let me expand this one. It again, cosine x cosine 3 pi over 4 plus, cosine is always opposite, sine x sine 3 pi over 4 equals 0. Okay, so now I'm just going to substitute in the values. All right, if I come over here, I'm going to see if I can make it a little bigger for you guys. Hopefully that's a little better. Okay, if I do 3 pi over 4, cosine is negative because it's in quadrant 2. So it's going to be negative radical 2 over 2. Cosine x is just going to stay. Now I just wrote the actual value first. It just makes it easier. Minus, this is going to be just radical 2 over 2 sine x. I'm not taking away the parentheses yet. I'm just putting in the values. Again, this is negative radical 2 over 2 cosine x plus radical 2 over 2 sine x equals 0. Okay, I'm going to now distribute that negative, excuse me, negative radical 2 over 2 cosine x minus radical 2 over 2 sine x. Negative times negative is a positive, radical 2 over 2 cosine x. Negative times positive is negative, radical 2 over 2 sine x equals 0. Okay, I have a negative radical 2 over 2 cosine and a positive. Thank goodness that's gone. When I combine these two, a half and a half gives me a whole. So I'm going to be left with negative 1 radical 2. Okay, if you wanted to put it together, you would notice that 1 and 1 is 2. 2 divided by 2, it's going to be that. Sine x equals 0. Okay, just combine those two. Divide by negative radical 2. Divide by negative radical 2. Doesn't really matter. It's going to just be 0. Sine of x is 0. Who has a sign that's 0? What is your value of x? It's going to be a 0-degree angle, and it's going to be pi. Okay, so that's the answer to number 6. Number 7, the question is tan squared x equals 1 minus secant of x. Again, you're going to solve for x, but we have two different functions. Tan squared x, I'm going to use my Pythagorean identity over here, that the tan squared theta plus 1 is secant squared theta. If I bring that 1 to the other side, I could replace tan squared theta with secant squared theta minus 1 equals 1 minus secant. Oh, well, I used x, so let me stay with x. I like saying x better anyway. Okay, so now I'm just going to solve it. It's a second-degree equation. I'm going to bring everything to the left side. This is positive, and make it equal 0. So secant squared x plus secant x. When I bring this over, I get minus 2 equals 0. I'll factor it. I'll get the secant of x plus 2 secant x minus 1 equals 0. I'll get the secant of x equals negative 2, which means the cosine of x is negative 1/2. Don't forget we have to do the reciprocal. Okay, who has a cosine of 1/2 and it's negative? So it's not here, it's not here. So cosine negative 1/2 is pi over 3, but it's got to be over here. So it would be 2 pi over 3 and 4 pi over 3. Here, secant x equals 1, so the cosine of x, when I flip 1, I get 1 is 1. So who gives me a cosine of 1? And that would be 0 degrees. Okay, so that's number 7. Let's look at number 8. Number 8 is what we did yesterday, which is rewriting those identities. And it says rewrite from product to sum of sine 6x sine 7x. Okay, so it's a sine, it's a product. I want to write it as a sum, a sine. So I'm going to use this one. So it's 1/2 the cosine of 6x minus 7x minus the cosine of 6x plus 7x. Okay, we're just going to simplify it. 1/2 times the cosine of negative x minus the cosine of 13x. I distribute that 1/2. Some books don't distribute that 1/2. Some books leave it like on the outside. It's not wrong either way. Just don't take half of the angle. That does not make sense. Cosine of 13x. It's just putting it in front. That's all you have to do for that question. The next question goes backwards. All right. Am I going to have enough time? Let me just turn the page. I'm definitely going to have enough time because this is question number 9. Okay. Number 9 says use a sum to product identity to find the exact value of this. And they give me sine of 17 pi over 12 minus the sine of pi over 12. Okay, it says sum to product. So I look at my sum to product. It's sine minus sine. So I'm going to use this formula here, sine minus sine. So it's 2 times the cosine of 17 pi over 12 plus pi over 12 divided by 2 times the cosine of 17 pi over 12 minus pi over 12 divided by 2. And now I'm just going to do the math, okay? When I add these together, 17 and 1 is 18. So it's going to be 2 cosine of 18 over 12 can reduce by 6, so it'll be 3 pi over 2 divided by 2. Cosine 17 minus 1 is 16. 16 over 12 both divisible by 4, so I get 4 pi over 3 divided by 2. This is going to be 2 cosine. Dividing by 2 is multiplying by the reciprocal, so you're multiplying by 1/2, so it's just 3 pi over 4. Sine of, again, multiplying by 1/2 is 4 pi over 6, which we could reduce to 2/3. So this is 2. Cosine in this quadrant is negative, right? It's 3/4, so it's negative radical 2 over 2. All right, sine is positive. Okay, this is a 60 degree. Sine is radical 3 over 2. This can cancel out. And I'm left with negative radical 6 over 2. Okay, seems to be like a very popular answer, don't you agree? And the last question here was, okay, if the secant of theta is negative 5 over 3, and you're in quadrant 3, between pi and radical 3 over 2, find the tangent. Excuse me. So they gave me the secant of theta is negative 5 over 3. And they want the tangent. Well, I know, and we're in quadrant 3. Let me just write that down. I know this formula. Okay, I know that tangent squared theta plus 1 equals secant squared theta. And they gave me the secant. So I'm just going to plug that in. So tangent squared theta plus 1 equals negative 5 over 3 squared. Tan squared theta plus 1 equals 25 over 9. Subtract 1, which I could rewrite as 9 over 9. So tangent squared theta equals 16 over 9, square root, tan theta equals 4 over 3. And since I'm in quadrant 3, okay, in quadrant 3 tangent is positive. That's the answer. That is question 10. I did that one in 10 minutes. Okay. If you have any questions on any of the work I did, please go back, review the video. I think I covered everything, and that's everything that is going to be on your test. Okay, I'll send your test home tomorrow. The same thing as the quiz. I'm going to ask if you can, please print it out right on the test, snapshot the test, and try to upload it in a way that it doesn't flip, because, you know, sometimes your homework comes in sideways and my neck kinks trying to do it. If you have any other questions on anything, if something that I explained didn't work out, how pathetic are my nails, by the way. If something didn't work out, email me, text me, send me a reminder, and I will be on the computer during the office hours to help you through. I hope this was helpful. Miss you guys. If you need anything, please reach out. I'll speak to you soon.